Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about this newest palette from Urban Decay. This is the Naked Honey palette. This palette will be priced at $49 US. I have a bunch of different launch dates. Like most releases from US companies, this is rolling out to a bunch of different countries at different times. So I'm gonna put the full list of release dates down in the description box, particularly if you're outside of the US. Make sure you check down there for information about when and where this palette's gonna be available for you. It's first launching in the US on September 13th, where it will be available, of course, on the Urban Decay site, as well as from Sephora, both online and in store. Then on September 23rd, it will be available to a bunch of US retailers online. So Ulta, Macy's, Nordstrom, those type of places. And then on the 26th, it will be available in those stores. Check the description box for the full details on release dates. Usually we don't get this much information ahead of time, so I'm really happy that Urban Decay is making it very transparent when and where this palette will be available, not just in the US, but to everyone worldwide. So I really like that. Good job, kudos, Urban Decay. This palette, first of all, the design is so cool. I love the texture on this, paired with this bronzy gold, like amber type of color. This is a heavy duty plastic, so it looks metallic, but this is a plastic. It's not super heavy, and the lid has a magnetic closure. I love that. I love that sound. I know I say that in every video. This palette does come with a double-sided brush. I don't tend to use the brushes in palettes. This one does feel pretty decent, feels pretty soft. There's a larger, like, fluffy blending side, and then a smaller, more like a packing brush side. I mean, first of all, nails painted to match. Commitment to matching continues. When we take a look inside the palette here, there is a nice big mirror here. As we can see, this is laid out just like all the other Naked palettes. There are 12 eyeshadow shades in here. There are 6 matte shades, 5 true metallics, and then this very first shade, this like white shade, is a satin finish. So we get a good mixture here of shades and finishes. I love palettes that are laid out basically light to dark. I just think that's very visually pleasing. Let's talk a little bit about the honey inspiration. I've seen a lot of people online saying that they wish there was more yellow in here, much like the ColourPop Honey palette, their yellow monochromatic palette. When we talk about inspiration for this palette, first of all, keep in mind this is a Naked palette, and the Naked palettes really are meant to do more of a nude or neutral take on whatever their inspiration is. So I think of the Naked palettes, particularly things like Naked Heat, Naked Cherry. Those were like a nude palette with a cherry twist or with a heat twist. This is a nude palette with a honey twist. And I think that the inspiration, the honey inspiration for the Naked Honey palette is more of like a true to life honey. When you think of actual honey that you would have in your kitchen, it really is this like golden amber type of color. It's not bright yellow. When it comes to like the ColourPop palette, I think their honey inspiration was more like the honey emoji. You know what I'm talking about? The little like honey pot, Winnie the Pooh style honey pot. So I think both are totally valid. I like that they took the same inspiration and took it in really, really different directions. But we're gonna do a bunch of comparisons. First, let's just swatch this Naked Honey palette. By now, you guys know the drill. I am gonna do both finger and brush swatches on the inside of my arm with no primer down first, just the shadow straight onto my skin. The finger swatches will be on top, and then for each shadow, I'll do a corresponding brush swatch. For all of the brush swatches, I'll use my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean this brush off in between each shade using my Vera Mono Color Switch. That way we don't get any transfer between swatches. So let's go ahead and take a look at those swatches now. Okay, I want to point out the obvious here. You cannot tell the difference between the brush and finger swatches, and honestly, some of the brush swatches look even better. Look at Flyby and Keeper. They literally look more opaque and smoother than the finger swatches. Okay, now you've seen the Naked Honey palette swatch. Let's do a couple of comparisons. The first thing that came to my mind when I thought about doing some swatch comparisons are these two honey themed palettes. Of course, we already talked about the ColourPop Honey palette. When you see these two swatch side by side, they're really not similar at all. Maybe a couple shades here and there could be kind of close. I don't think you're gonna get similar looks out of these palettes. I think that these two could be really cool companion palettes used together. I said in my Honey palette review that I wanted something to ground it a little bit more depth, and I think that using these two palettes together could be really awesome. Of course, there is another honey palette. This is the OG honey palette. This is from Too Faced. It's the Peanut Butter and Honey palette. Shade-wise and overall feeling-wise, this one is a lot more similar to Naked Honey than the ColourPop palette is. This one just has more of those warm, neutral, kind of real-life honey vibes going on. Definitely not dupes by any means, but this is another one that I think it would be fun to use the two of them together if you just wanted a really, really honey-tastic look. All right, now that you've seen all those swatches, some comparisons, let's jump into a quick eyeshadow tutorial using this Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, and then I will wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm gonna start off by priming my lids with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then we're going straight into the Naked Honey palette. I'm first using the shade Flyby. This is a nice pale satin shade, and just really lightly dusting that to set my eye base. For my transition shade, I'm using this one called Sweet. This is one of the more neutral shades in the palette, and it works as a great basic transition for pretty much any look you want to do, whether you want to go more for the colors or for a more neutral look. So I'm putting that in my crease, and I also use that right along my lower lash line on just a small little dense brush. Then I'm going to use the shade Keeper. This one I'm putting on a fluffier brush and layering over that Sweet shade so that I start to bring some of these golden tones into my look, pulling that down onto my lid. Then I'm going to use Drip again on that small flat brush, and I'm going to build that up on the outer part of my eye, staying closer to my lashes so that I get a little bit of a warm smoky look. I'm going to use the shade Honey. I'm applying this with my little pinky finger right in the inner corner of my eyes. Then I'm going to go to its next door neighbor, Golden, applying that with my finger, and this just one swipe, beautiful metallic coverage. I love this shade so much. This really makes the palette for me. Then going back in with Drip and just deepening up that outer corner, patting that right onto the very outer part of my eye and smoothing that in to the gold shade that's on my lid. Now I'm going to go back into Keeper. I'm going to blend everything together using this Keeper shade and pulling that up a little bit above the crease. Then I used Flyby and just with my finger did a little brow bone highlight there. That's it for the shadows. Curled my lashes, added some of my L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. This is my finished look. I love it. It's neutral, but it still has that bright pop of yellow gold. This feels like Naked Honey palette. I love the way this looks so much. I was so obsessed with this eye look. I wore it all day and just could not stop staring at my eyelids. I feel like lately in my palette reviews, I've been saying that I have mixed feelings or I feel middle of the road about palettes. I don't feel that way about this one at all. I very clearly really like this palette. When I first saw photos of this palette online, I was not super excited about it. Didn't hate it by any means, but I was just sort of meh towards it. But first of all, this looks way more beautiful in person than it does in photos. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the pictures that I saw. When we're talking about releasing a neutral palette in today's makeup world, you really have to do something interesting and you have to do really good formulas. There are thousands and thousands of neutral palettes on the market, and I think at this point, for at least for us beauty lovers, it takes a lot to really get us to look twice at a neutral palette. Even people who love neutral palettes, there are so many good ones out there. I do think it's hard to impress with a neutral palette. This palette has impressed me. First of all, the formula on this is so good. It's so good. Urban Decay has pretty consistent formulas. These shadows feel better to me than the most recent Naked Reloaded release. Those were okay. I felt like they were sort of par for the course for Urban Decay. This feels like an improvement formula-wise. The mattes are so soft, but yet they're not flaking apart. They're not exploding in the pan when I touch a brush in there. They're really easy to blend, just the right amount of pigmentation where the color shows up on the lids, the color stays true on the lids, even when it's blended together with other shades. These metallic shades are so good. I used the shade Golden today, but the last time I wore this palette, I put this like rose gold coppery shade called HBIC on my lid, and oh, it's just so pretty. I love a smooth, super shiny, super opaque metallic formula. That's definitely what these are. These like really mustardy mattes paired with the more like bright yellow gold shades. I love that they put this olive green, like greeny gold shade in here. It's really interesting. Overall, I do find it inspiring yet easy to wear. I think anybody's gonna enjoy this, whether you're like a hardcore colorful makeup lover or somebody that airs more on the neutral side. This is like that perfect balance. I really, really like this palette a lot. I love my eye look today. I love the last eye look I did. That was a more just straight up neutral look. Oh yeah, this palette's really good. The packaging, the shades, the formula, everything, just everything about it makes me happy. This is a really good palette. I think this is the best Naked palette I've ever tried. Have I tried all of them? No. Have I tried most of them? Yes. Now's the time when I want to hear what you guys think about this palette. Is this on your wish list? Is this on your radar? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Woo. I'm easily distracted. What's new? What did I just say? I don't think that was a real sentence. Okay. This Urban Decay. If you can't get this excited about a metallic gold eyeshadow, then you really need to get on my level, because never gets old. It's really pretty. It's really pretty. Oh yes. Oh mama. Oh mama. Yep, is good. I love this eyeshadow. It's like, is it yellow? Is it gold? Who knows? Who is she? We don't know. No. This is a contender for best palettes of 2019. I start making my best of the year lists in the fall. That way I have a couple months to sort of play around with them, edit, move things around, go back and retest things if I need to. Oh man, exciting times. We're making our best of lists. We're gearing up for holiday. This is the time. Yes. Everybody's excited about pumpkin spice. I'm excited about makeup. I mean, you can be excited about both. Like, I have no problem with that. What? I don't know. I really just need to calm down. Tone it down. Shut it down. Okay. Bye.